taking eclipse panoramas. He had a special camera, a 6 by 17 centimeter, a Fuji. I'd never seen that before, and he showed me some of his results. They were really great. And then he told me about his place. He was very open about that. You turn there to the right. It was the direction of the garbage belt. And but a bit before that, he had this nice cactus field. And he reserved already his cactus. So he put there his visiting card on his cactus. It was the nicest one of the whole field, so I had to look for some other cactus. So you see it becoming darker already. And inspired by John Post, I was also trying to do a combination of the cactus with the eclipse sun. If it's completely dark, it looks a bit better. So it's my first attempt really to go into more scenic pictures of the eclipse, to make your own signature. I still have one as well of the corona. And then the shadow moving away in the other direction. Now on this eclipse, what did I learn? I started to wear glasses and to look at the short distance, put them off. Then the eclipse started. Oh, from very far I could not see that sharp, so it was not a very good idea. So keep them all in hand or keep them on you. The next one was in the backyard, so it would be easy. But there were several options. Turkey was the most favorable options for the good weather, and normally I would have done that. But there were a few buts. Close by, France or Germany, I could use my own car, it's more flexible, and I could carry my own telescope with, which is quite small, but maybe take some more detailed pictures. It would be much cheaper, and I just bought a new car, so that was an unfortunate decision. Well, you'll see the result of the story soon. So I went to France in the end. I booked already a place in Ulm in Germany. I did there a prospection. Hotel was right on the central line. But then I spent a few days before the eclipse at home and becoming very nervous with all the weather forecasts. I've never been more nervous before an eclipse. So I prefer actually simply to book a trip and be somewhere, and that saves you from all this trouble to following up in the weather forecasts, especially if they're bad. So Germany was bad. I cancelled my booking and decided to go to France. It was a bit better. This is the person you've seen this morning, Fred, I don't need to introduce. And he was on the television because there was a program that was explaining about what was going to happen, and all famous eclipse people were pictured in this program. Now it's also good if you are in a Dutch television channel, because they don't dub the text, they put subtitles, so we will see here what Fred is telling us, that this eclipse is coming at a maximum of solar activity. That's what it means, so the corona then, with other words, will be quite symmetric. I ended up in a place near Laon, and as you can see, it's quite cloudy here, very grey sky. I did not want to be up in the town, which is there on top of the hill. It's like a fortress, but it's all but it's all completely enclosed, that fortress, so once you're there, you're really caught. So I took a place on the slopes of the hills, and the French there cleared many of the fields and made it into big parking places so that people could observe from there. That's also what I did, but after half an hour of partial phase, I decided that it was getting grayer and grayer, the clouds building up, and soon it would start raining. I'd just throw in the telescope in the back of the car, and my wife was driving. I was looking through the open sunroof, something good about that car. That could direct me to because I saw a spot on the horizon, a direction where it was clearer. I say, we just drive to there, take the small road, and we were on the main road in the direction of Reims. And we were not the only one, so we stopped from time to time when we were in the clearing. For the very first time when we came into the clearing, we saw the reflections of the cars. It was really like shining, and we were really very happy. But it never lasted very long. It was only a few minutes. And then, because the clouds were passing very fast. So eclipse chasing becomes really chasing, literally. And these are all small roads. At a given moment, I went into the opposite direction, so it was because I thought it was better to take a side road, but I immediately changed my mind because I was driving against the cars, not a good idea. And here then, once again, a big clearing. We stopped for a while until drive through the fields, until we stopped at this final place. I looked at the time, and now is the moment to stop here and look at the totality. And indeed, we have seen here the totality completely. I don't have pictures of totality. It was already too much adrenaline at that moment. I looked with the binoculars, maybe even a blessing is in disguise. You see here my wife also looking at the eclipse. And immediately after the eclipse, it started to pour out rain. So we were just after the eclipse caught up by the clouds. The second diamond ring was visible behind a thin layer of clouds. So they were just coming. And the chicken went to sleep still during the phase. Yes, I don't know about my timing. So weather, again, very important. African eclipse. I will not explain here the choice, but we moved to Zambia in the end. And in this case, there was an interesting program offered by a local observatory called Urania. And what appealed to me here was that they observed it from a national park. It was North Kafue. So I thought, and it was indeed right, it would be sensational to see here all the animal reactions. The setting up of the telescope, the lunch in the field before the eclipse, and watching at the partial phase. And here I really wanted to focus only on one single picture, had a nice landscape. And I took a whole set of this. It took me 1 minute or something to go, or 1.5, and all the rest looking visually around. The compulsory celebrations. Indeed, the lessons learned, I just stick to one landscape from then onwards. Try to get my own signature picture of the eclipse, something personal. 2002, I liked Africa very much. It was a bit longer than Australia. It was a bit less pricey as well, at least the flight. Like to go back to the national park with a fantastic reaction of the animals. In Zambia, we could hear the lions howl during the eclipse, or the hippos snort. It was really fantastic. There was also a swarm of wild bees just before totality coming. So I wanted to be in Kruger, but unfortunately, when they opened the booking, it was already sold out. So the only place where I could still find something was there Chipese, which was in the big neighborhood of Messina. Messina is known for all its nice baobab trees, so I went also a recce around, tried to do like Sean Post and put my sticker on the baobab, but it did not work. Because 2 days before, it was everything deserted. But the day of the eclipse, the morning when we arrived there, all South Africans were camping below these baobab trees, and they had the parties and their nice braais and barbecues. So, but this was my choice number 1, this baobab. That was a very nice one. That was along the Limpopo River, starting from Messina. But the morning of the eclipse, in the middle of the night, the clouds started to come. It was a long drought. That's what happened in South Africa, but just at the moment the weather was changing. Partial phase started already, nevertheless the clouds were coming from the South Pans Mountain. So Catherine was already ready by the car in standby, and I decided to move on. I don't know, apparently I don't have much time left. So from time to time I also did annular ones. So I did 4 annular eclipses. The one in Malaysia was also a good occasion to combine that with a visit of the family-in-law. The one in Scotland, which was so-called impossible, but since Antarctica was out of reach, it was the only option left actually. Then 2005 was a close-by eclipse, so not too expensive. In 2006, I wanted to be in Suriname because everybody was going to French Guiana. After all, in France I had already been, so look, going to another country. So the considerations are either relatively cheap, close by, or cheap flights. If there is a too long period without a total one, then it's the moment to take an annular one, of course. If there is a very good chance of seeing it, or if the trip would be very interesting, a country which is very appealing. A special one is also sunrise, sunset, or almost total, that is also something very special. I only show a few pictures here of Scotland, where it worked out. Difficult to see, but just when the annularity started, we could see a very faint ring here through the thick mist layer. That is done with a telescope. The end of the annularity, you see the top part of the ring. With some people of it makes always a nice scenery. Now, it was for me the first time to see an eclipse from a ship, and of course 30 seconds is quite short, very short. Every eclipse is too short, but 30 seconds is really short. To be honest, I prefer to see eclipses from on land. I think the total overall experience is bigger. I don't know what it is, but maybe you're a bit refrained and you don't have maybe the 360 degrees on a ship, but that's my own preference. I also learned about people on that ship, about these binoculars with image stabilization, which I bought afterwards, and that really enhanced a lot my own experiences. Especially the annular one, you could see all the games of the Bailey beads, which I could not see before, really. I go very quickly now to go for the next big one. That is obviously the one in 2006, but most people have looked, many from Turkey. But here, the consideration was for me Niger or Libya, because they clearly had a better weather forecast. Not so much because the length of the totality, which was maybe 20 seconds more than in Turkey. The first shows actually Libya could not take place because that operator finally had to cancel the trip because his local Libyan operator could not guarantee the trip. So again, I went with the same Belgian operator, Urania. And we ended there up in the Tenere Desert. I liked also to go to Niger to learn about the Tuareg culture and to cross the Tenere Desert, which was a real experience. But maybe you see it on this picture. All the nights we could see the stars, and the night before the eclipse, suddenly we could only see the brightest stars anymore. There was a big mist coming up. And okay, we could see the corona very well through the mist, but some of the effects got lost. We didn't see really so much the coloring of the horizon. It all remained grayish. And the effect of the shadow coming was also not so visible. It's also not so advisable to put the camera in the loose end, so that's why also the pictures here of the diamond ring at the end are not that sharp. In Mongolia, the guy which I mailed initially said, oh yeah, I asked for a camel ride. He said, you don't have to do that. Horse riding is much more interesting. I thought, okay, that would be 1 or 2 hours horse riding. But then he found some other people during which we shared then that part of the trip. So it was 3 days horse riding. And I said, oh, and I never done it before, so I followed the course on a real big horse then in Europe. For about 2 years I did that. In China, was the right opportunity. Woshuisi Hanyu. So learned some Chinese, which I'm still even continuing today. But still, even though I'm now in the 4th year at elementary level, I have to admit, because it's a difficult language. French Polynesia, first time I went for the diving, so they call it the baptême there. And I hope by the Australian eclipse I will know it a little bit better. To round up this presentation and the recommendations to give, especially then more for the younger people, prepare very well. Start with your location first is the most important factor, I would say. Try, even if against all odds, if it's not too costly, of course, like for example Scotland. Always go for a recce before, unless maybe you have an organized trip and the people who organized that for you have done the recce in your place, but otherwise spend a few days before eclipse and look around. Reserve enough time to observe visually. Don't spend all your time with instruments. For enhancing your visual experience, it's better to look with some instruments, either binoculars or a small telescope or portable telescope, so you see some more details in the prominences and the corona. Especially these image stabilization binoculars are a very good recommendation, but they are not cheap. So with small equipment, the people that want to travel light and independent, you can also produce some good results. You don't need always to carry very huge instruments. You can make something of your own. Eclipses are a great way to discover new places. It's a good excuse actually to see the world, learn new experiences. And I would say, have good fun when you go for eclipse trip and enjoy the traveling as much as the eclipses. And you will not be disappointed too much in case there would be a cloud between you and the eclipse sun. So that's my message. So thank you very much for your patience so long on the road.